Hi, this is Pamela Tapjian. I am the voice behind the guided meditations here. I am a integrative healing arts practitioner, board certified hypnotherapist, and also pet sitter. But I wanted to talk about inner child work today and give you some ideas of different things that you can do to connect with your inner child and to maybe let some healing happen. So people tend to think of inner child work as something only that you need if you've been through some trauma, and that's just not the case. We've all been children before, and we all have some sort of baggage or, stuff, whether it's baggage or not. And even if you have had trauma, and even if you've been through some healing and some therapy or counseling in that, doing some other kinds of inner child work can be very helpful, as well as, I think, very surprising. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it can be really surprising what comes up. So, there's just so much to inner child work, so many different ways that you can go about it. And I'm just going to do a very brief, very basic information. And there's so much more information out there. So I think that I might do more on inner child work just because it's just so much, so much to talk about with it. And I don't want to get in too deep. I want this to be a sort of a guidance of what different things that you can do to help you connect with your inner child. So just some different ways to go about it. So first of all, there are letters. You can write a letter to your inner child. What do you want to say to that person? What do you want to say to them? If you could go back in time and say anything, what would you say to them? That's something really to think about and, put that down on the paper. Just write a letter. Dear 10-year-old me, dear 13-year-old me, dear 3-year-old me. Sometimes we want to go back to a certain specific memory on this day, during this circumstance. I want my child self to know whatever. Sometimes it can be just a little more basic or general, just, my inner child, my younger self, my child self, dear, so I'm Pamela, and some of my family still calls me Pammy. So I might write, dear Pammy, or, if I had certain years in my life, certain ages in my life that I wanted to connect with or let her, give her some information. Um, I might just say, dear, you know, 13-year-old me, something like that. But you can write the letter to your child self, or you can think about what would your little child self want to say to the person you are now. What would they want to say to, the adult you are right now? Or you might want to ask if they have any questions. And so they say your non-dominant hand, if you write with your non-dominant hand, that's very much like writing from your subconscious mind, or writing from your intuition, or writing from your inner child self. And sometimes when people do like intuitive writing, or people that channel, I mean, I know we're getting into the little wooey here, but sometimes they will write with, if they do automatic writing, they might write with their non-dominant hand, because it's just you're just so used to writing with your dominant hand, of course, right? it's going to be a very different experience. And that sounds kind of crazy, I know, if you haven't heard this before, but it can be amazing what comes out. It really can. You might really surprise yourself. So you might want to write in your um, dominant hand a question or something you want to say to your child self. And then in your non-dominant hand, start answering. And if you don't know what to say, then rewrite your question. And then, then, or just rewrite whatever the statement was, or at least part of it, and then, continue on, see if more comes out. And this might take some practice. So, if the first time you do it, you're like, oh, that didn't work, don't give up, go ahead and keep trying, keep continuing to do it. So, I need to get a drink. So this is my friend, my brother from another mother, Lona Curry, Reverend Lona Curry, LC. And he has a podcast called Recovery Soul Food, and it's a YouTube channel as well. And let me get a drink first, because that's why I picked it up. So thank you for this gift, LC. But he has a recovery podcast, and it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, all of that. So just a little commercial break here. So, and his recovery podcast and YouTube channel, he talks more about his journey through recovery, and that recovery is more than just sobriety, and that recovery is more than just about being free from substance abuse. We all are, need some recovery from something, right? So please check them out. Recovery Soul Food on Instagram, YouTube, all the podcast channels. Now back to our inner child work. So yeah, so there's just he's a great speaker, and I want you to look, check him out, whether it's on one of the podcast platforms and you just listen, or go over to his YouTube channel. So another thing, so we talked about writing letters. You can look at old photos. Just get out your old photos, sort of make that connection. Look at your child self, see if you can remember that day, or look into their face or their eyes and see if you can get the feeling of what that little person was feeling at that moment or during that time in their life. And just sort of make that connection. You can just look at that picture and you can kind of say to yourself, whatever you want to say to yourself. I see you. I understand. It's going to be okay. Whatever you want to say to that person, or just look at the photos just to kind of get in the mood of starting to connect. Just look at those photos and, like I said, you can talk to the photos out loud or just in your mind. You can read them your letter if you wrote a letter, but also just to sort of get yourself, with those memories and get yourself making that connection visually with the old photos. Because a lot of times people, especially people who have had trauma in their childhood, a lot of times they sort of try to forget and they kind of put things out of their mind. Even if you've had therapy, a lot of times people will sort of disassociate or just not think about, just try not to think about certain times in their childhood. So you might need to sort of reminisce a little bit, and old photos always help with that. You can see, do you remember those clothes or whatever that toy was or that room? Where were you in that photo? And you can look at all of that to help you. But then you can visualize, you can close your eyes and visualize, just think about your child self, try to get a vision in your mind of that person. And it can be from one of the photos or just, how do you present in your own imagination, when you close your eyes and you think of yourself, who is that person that shows up? And it might take some practice if this is new to you to even be able to visualize. But, I want you to think about, some people tell me that I have no imagination. I can't see anything if I try to imagine things, but you don't have to actually see it to, to know what's going on in your mind, right? So think about, um, an apple. I don't have an apple in my hand, but if I did, we all know what that would look like, right? This is a pretty big apple, isn't it? But we all know what that would look like. We don't have to be able to imagine. We don't have to be able to have a vivid imagination. But even, okay, so we know what an apple looks like, everybody. We don't know we've never seen a unicorn, but we know what they look like. You can describe it, even though you've never seen it. So because you've seen drawings, pictures, whatever graphics, because you've seen, pictures of unicorns throughout your life, right? You know what they look like. But when you close your eyes and I tell you to visualize or imagine a unicorn, I am very vivid. I have a very vivid imagination, very vivid dreams. I can see clearly in my mind's eye. I know everybody cannot, but you still know what I'm talking about, right? So I just wanted to say that because um, people will shut it all off and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try because I know I can't see anything when I imagine. But I don't want you to just, dismiss it right away. I want you to try. Um, so then, so you can visualize talking to them. You can visualize, just giving them a hug, or just visualize and, maybe you are thinking of a certain moment, or in the pictures that you saw, sparked a memory or something, and you want to go back to that day. Or it might be not a good day, and you might want to go back to that day and give her a hug and tell her that, it'll be okay eventually. Or, I'm here with you. I see you. Um, so, you know, that reminds me of, so long before I was a hypnotherapist or even knew about hypnotherapy. And, I was meditating every day. And so sometimes I would just try to completely quiet my mind and see, um, and just meditate that way. Other times I would have an intention for my meditation and I would go in it with an idea of what I wanted to visualize. So this was long ago. This is long before even any therapy or any breakdowns. If you know me and you know my story, I've had uh, a very bad time in my life. That was a mental breakdown, and that was after two toxic marriages, and I had a big mental break and came back from that, from with all kinds of things, with therapy and writing my books, and just all kinds of ways that I healed that for myself. But anyway, I got off there. Um, so long before that, it was um I wanted to do a meditation to connect with my child self. And I had no idea what would come up. I wasn't thinking of any intention. I think that I had just heard of it somewhere. I had read about it or something, heard about it somewhere. So I decided to go ahead and do that. And just to put the intention there and without any expectation. And I was actually surprised because I saw my little child self, and I believe that I was walking on a path, and she was sitting on a bench, and I don't remember if she said anything or I said anything right away, but she was alone and she was kind of too young to be alone. And I don't remember if there was any words exchanged within my meditation, but I know, oh yeah, yeah. So I know that I gave her a hug, and I know that she did say to me that not to leave her alone. She said, "Don't leave me alone." Or "I don't want to be alone," or something like that. But I don't know if I had asked her anything or I said anything first. I don't know. But that's what she said. And I was left alone a lot when I was young. And like I said, this was before any breakdown and before any therapy. So I didn't really touch on that um, yet at that point in my life. And that was very surprising to me that that's what came up. And I I think I journaled about it, and just, that was kind of a life-changing moment a little bit of that's what my inner child needed. I didn't really know, like I didn't realize that that had affected me, and that's what came up. So, let's see. I think that that's enough for today. So I hope that this was helpful. And like I said, if you have any other questions or any other topics or focus that you want me to do, or even a focus for a guided visualization, please write it in the comments. Let me know. So I think that I do have one for inner child connection. There's so many different ways to do that. So even if I have one there, um, a visualization, a guided visualization, even if I have one there, then I can maybe do another one that's totally different than what I have, because there's so many different ways that you can do it. And so whatever I do have, I will link in the comments below or in the description, probably in the description. So if you want to do a guided visualization, um, it will be linked to help you along this journey of inner child work. So thanks so much. Thank you for joining. Thank you for clicking on this video.